Welcome to a moment of calm. You don't need to do anything. Just get comfortable, breathe slowly, and let this story gently guide you to sleep. Let us know in the comments how many minutes it took you to fall asleep. Sweet dreams. Tonight, allow your body to settle into rest. There is nothing you need to accomplish right now. No tasks to complete, no pressure to do anything correctly. The simple act of lying here, eyes closed, is already a kind of care. Let the bed support you fully. Let the muscles that have been working all day begin to release. Invite stillness without forcing it. Take a slow breath in, gentle and quiet, and then let it leave just as easily. Breathing can be soft, like water moving with the tide. No strain, no holding, no effort to control the moment. If thoughts appear, let them pass at a distance, like clouds crossing a wide sky. They do not require your attention. They can keep moving. As you continue breathing, notice the weight of your shoulders dropping, the jaw loosening, the space around the eyes feeling wider and calmer. Each exhale carries something away, tension that is no longer needed, urgency that can wait until morning, the last sharp edges of the day. Time can slow here, in and out. The rhythm becomes steady on its own. The body grows heavier in a comfortable way, as if it is remembering how to rest. Nothing needs solving. Nothing needs revisiting. Only the quiet remains, and the breath carrying you deeper. And as that calm settles in, the first light of an ancient dawn begins to rise. Before the world speaks its own name, there is a hush that hangs between night and morning. The sky is a deep, resting blue, neither dark nor bright, as though it is pausing. Mountains stand motionless under shadow, rivers soften their voices. Even the sea seems smoother, darker, holding back its shimmer as it waits. Then, at the farthest edge of everything known beyond the horizon, where land gives way to the great encircling waters, warmth begins to stir. At first it is not visible. It is felt. A subtle easing in the cold of night, a gentler touch in the air. Darkness does not snap away. It simply loosens its grip, as if a hand has opened. In that distant place, Helios awakens. Not abruptly, not with haste, but with the certainty of something that has never failed to return. This rising is older than memory, older than any tale mortals have used to explain the sky. Light gathers around him, as naturally as breath fills the lungs. It does not flare. It accumulates, steady and alive, golden, warm, enduring. The eastern sky answers first. A thin line of pale brightness appears above the water and slowly widens. Stars begin to soften, not chased, but released, fading quietly as the night withdraws. The horizon takes on color rose and amber layered gently, as though the day is testing its own palette before it fully arrives. Across the land, life responds without waking. Leaves shift. Dew trembles on blades of grass. Birds turn in their nests, sensing what is approaching. Light spreads with patience, inch by inch, honoring the balance between shadow and illumination. Hills begin to form again from darkness. Valleys fill with soft gold. The sea regains its depth and color, blue edged with copper, waves catching brightness in small, whispered flashes. The world is not startled into morning. It is invited. Warmth settles across fields and forests, touching soil, bark, water, and wing with the same gentle certainty. Night retreats without fear. It has done its work. Now it yields, leaving behind the calm of sleep fulfilled. And when the sun clears the rim of the world, the day is fully born. Mortals may greet it without knowing its ancient source, but the light carries a presence constant, watchful, serene, beginning again the timeless passage across the heavens. Helios is no ordinary figure of sunlight. He is a Titan, born of Hyperion, the ever-observant power of the celestial order, and Theia, whose brilliance grants clear sight. With his sisters Eos of the dawn and Selene of the moon, he holds the great cycle in motion. Day giving way to night, night returning to day, without breaking the rhythm. And his reach is not limited to the sky. From his height, he witnesses what unfolds below. Under his light, little remains truly hidden. Not because he seeks to interfere, but because illumination itself reveals. His constancy is his signature. Where other forces change, weaken, or turn away, Helios continues, steady as a heartbeat, dependable as the turning of the world. Even a being so enduring is tied to the world through bonds of family. Helios took Perse, an Oceanid, as his wife, and from their union came children whose lives would thread through both mortal and divine stories. Aeetes, who would rule Colchis and guard the Golden Fleece. Perses, carrying a quiet authority within their lineage. Pasiphae, whose marriage into the house of Crete would lead to events remembered with awe and dread. Through them, the sun's influence reaches kingdoms and destinies, touching far more than the open sky. But Perse was not the only one held close to Helios. There was also Clymene, a nymph who drew his attention with her beauty and presence, and with her came more children, daughters often called the Heliades, and a son named Phaethon, whose longing would one day blaze as fiercely as the chariot of the sun itself. Phaethon grew beneath a sky that was never quite ordinary. From a young age, he sensed that his life leaned towards something immense, something burning just beyond reach. Others around him spoke of lineage with pride or caution, but for Phaethon, it was uncertainty that followed him. Whispers traveled easily among mortals. Some questioned whether he truly carried the blood of the sun. Others dismissed the idea altogether, treating it as an indulgent myth told by a mother too fond of wonder. Those doubts took root. They did not fade with time. Instead, they sharpened. Each challenge, each skeptical glance, pressed against him until the need for proof became impossible to ignore. He did not seek power for its own sake. He sought certainty, to stand beneath the open sky and know, without question, where he belonged. At last, he could endure the silence no longer. Phaethon set out toward the distant east, where day is born and night retreats. The journey was long, marked by exhaustion and resolve, but the path itself seemed to guide him forward. When he reached the radiant halls of Helios, the air shimmered with warmth, and the ground beneath his feet glowed as if remembering the passage of light. Helios recognized him immediately. There was no hesitation, no test of truth. The sun god welcomed the young man with a clarity that cut through every doubt Phaethon carried. In that moment, the years of uncertainty dissolved. Father and son stood face to face, bound by light and blood. And Helios, moved by affection and certainty, made a promise. "Ask anything," he said, "and it would be granted." A vow sworn by the river that seals all divine oaths. It was meant as reassurance, a gift to soothe the ache of disbelief that had followed Phaethon through his youth. But the request that followed was not what Helios expected. Phaethon did not ask for riches or status. He did not ask for dominion or immortality. He asked to drive the chariot of the sun for a single day, to guide the blazing horses across the sky and prove to himself and to the world that he was truly the son of Helios. Regret arrived too late. The oath could not be undone. Helios warned him patiently, desperately of the dangers. The horses were powerful, fierce, attuned only to experienced hands. The path across the heavens was narrow and precise. Too high, and the world would freeze beneath a distant sun. Too low, and the earth would burn. Phaethon listened, but youth hears caution differently than wisdom intends. At dawn, the chariot rose. At first, all went well. The sky brightened as it always had. Light flowed across the land, steady and familiar. But the horses soon sensed the uncertainty behind the reins. They surged forward, pulling the chariot higher than it should go. The cold of the upper sky bit into the earth below. Rivers stiffened. Crops faltered. Then, panic took hold. Phaethon lost control. The horses plunged downward, and the sun's fire swept too close to the ground. Forests ignited, fields scorched. The land cried out beneath the sudden merciless heat. Even the seas recoiled, their waters shrinking back from the blaze overhead. The balance of the world fractured in moments. Seeing the destruction unfold, Zeus acted, not out of cruelty, but necessity. To save the world from complete ruin, he hurled a thunderbolt into the sky. The strike shattered the chariot. Phaethon was thrown from the heavens, his body falling through smoke and fire, until the river below received him in silence. The day returned to order, but something had been lost. Helios mourned his son deeply. For a time, the sun refused to rise, and darkness lingered longer than it should have. The world waited, suspended, until grief softened enough for duty to resume. When Helios returned to the sky, his light carried a quieter weight. The Hyliades, Phaethon's sisters, grieved along the riverbank, their sorrow unending. They wept until their tears became amber, until their bodies rooted into the earth, transforming into trees that still stand in mourning, resin glistening like frozen light. From that day forward, the sun's path was never again entrusted to uncertain hands. The lessons settled into myth, carried forward through generations. Even divine fire demands restraint. Even inherited power requires understanding before it can be guided safely. Helios continued his eternal passage across the sky, unchanged in duty but marked by memory. Each sunrise remained faithful. Each sunset arrived on time. The rhythm endured as it always had. And far below, mortals watched the sun cross the heavens without knowing the cost of its constancy. They felt its warmth on their skin. They measured time by its movement. They planned harvests and journeys beneath its steady arc. Few paused to consider the ancient stories woven into that light, or the fragile balance that keeps the world turning. As you rest now, breathing slow and even, imagine that steady glow above you, not harsh, not demanding, simply present. The sun does not rush. It does not linger. It moves as it must, faithful to its path. And just as day gives way to night without resistance, your body can release itself into sleep, trusting the quiet rhythm that carries everything forward. As ages passed, the presence of Helios remained constant, yet the way mortals understood him slowly shifted. In earlier times, his light was not merely daylight, it was awareness. To live beneath the sun was to exist under witness. Oaths were sworn in open places so that Helios could see them. Crimes committed in secrecy were believed to tremble under his gaze. for nothing exposed to the sun could remain entirely concealed. His journey across the sky was a daily reminder that actions left traces, and truth, like light, traveled far. But the world did not stand still. New gods rose to prominence. New stories gained voice. Gradually, Helios became less a force of judgment and more a presence folded into the background of life itself. His role did not disappear, but it narrowed. Where once he was the sun itself, later traditions spoke of him as its guide or its memory, while others took up dominion over light, prophecy, and order. Still, Helios endured. Each morning, his chariot continued its ascent. Each evening, it completed its descent beyond the western edge of the world. Empires formed and collapsed beneath his arc. Cities were built stone by stone, then abandoned to dust. Languages changed, borders shifted, names were forgotten. Yet the sun returned, unwavering. From his height, Helios watched the slow transformation of human time. He saw generations measure their lives in seasons rather than myths. He observed calendars replace constellations as guides. The sun became something to calculate, to predict, to harness. Its warmth fed crops. Its position set hours. Its absence defined night. Meaning gave way to function, and reverence softened into familiarity. But familiarity did not lessen dependence. Without the sun's steady presence, life faltered. Even stripped of myth, the light remained essential. Fields still required its warmth. Bodies still relied on its rhythm. Sleep and waking continued to align with its rise and fall, even when its name was no longer spoken aloud. Helios did not resist this change. Constancy was his nature. He did not demand remembrance. He did not punish forgetfulness. His role was not to be praised endlessly, but to persist. In that persistence, something greater than worship emerged: reliability. And reliability shaped the world more deeply than fear ever could. There were moments, however, when mortals were reminded that the sun was not simply a passive force. Eclipses darkened the sky without warning. Storms veiled daylight behind iron clouds. Droughts stretched on, relentless, until the land cracked and harvests failed. In those moments, old instincts stirred. People looked upward again, uneasy, searching the heavens for meaning. They remembered, faintly, that light could be withheld. Even then, Helios did not act out of whim or anger. The balance of the world was larger than any single will. Cycles turned, forces intertwined. The sun's path remained true, even when clouds or shadow temporarily obscured it from view. And this, too, became a lesson. Light could disappear without being gone. Presence could persist, even when unseen. The rhythm did not break simply because perception faltered. As centuries continued their slow procession, the figure of Helios retreated further into the realm of story. His chariot became poetry. His lineage became footnotes. His tragedies became symbols rather than warnings. The sun itself was explained through numbers and motion, no longer through divine hands guiding fiery horses. Yet the experience of sunlight did not change. It still warmed the face in the morning. It still cast long shadows in late afternoon. It still softened at dusk, turning stone and water gold before yielding to night. No equation altered that feeling. No theory replaced the quiet comfort of knowing that morning would come again. In this way, Helios remained present, even without a name. Not as a god demanding attention, but as a rhythm holding the world together. A reminder that continuity does not require belief, only motion. That reliability is a form of care, extended endlessly, without expectation of gratitude. And so, while myths faded and meanings shifted, the sun's passage remained one of the few experiences shared by every living thing, across cultures, borders, and eras. As you lie here now, drifting closer to sleep, your body responds to that same ancient pattern. Darkness has arrived, not as an enemy, but as a companion. Rest follows light, just as it always has. Nothing is broken. Nothing is missing. The world is simply turning. The sun has completed its course for now, slipping beyond the horizon, leaving space for quiet. Its absence is temporary, not a loss. Somewhere beyond sight, it continues its steady movement, preparing to return, and knowing that deeply, instinctively, your body allows itself to let go. Breath slows, muscles soften, thought loosens its grip. The same rhythm that has carried days and centuries forward carries you now, gently, into sleep. Night deepens as the world turns away from the sun. Where Helios once commanded attention as a living presence, darkness now carries its own quiet authority. It is not a rival to light, but its counterpart. When the sun withdraws, the sky does not empty. It softens. Stars emerge, not in haste, but one by one, as if carefully placed. The moon rises along its familiar course, pale and steady, reflecting what the sun has already given. This balance has always been essential. Helios was never meant to rule alone. His journey across the sky completes only because it ends. Without the pause of night, light would lose its meaning, rest would vanish, growth would falter. The world requires intervals of shadow to restore itself, just as the body requires sleep to remain whole. Ancient minds understood this intuitively. They did not fear the sunset. They welcomed it as a necessary turning. Fires were lit, doors were closed, voices lowered. The pace of life slowed in response to the sky itself. Night was not an interruption, but a signal, a boundary drawn gently, telling both land and people that effort could cease. In time, this wisdom became quieter. Artificial light pushed back the dark. Hours stretched beyond sunset. Work followed people into the night, blurring the line between day and rest. The sun's cycle remained unchanged, but human attention drifted. Night lost its authority, treated as an obstacle rather than a refuge. Still, the body remembered. No matter how brightly rooms were lit, fatigue arrived. Concentration thinned. The nervous system asked for stillness. The ancient agreement between light and dark continued beneath conscious awareness, steady and insistent. Helios, in myth, did not protest this forgetting. He never demanded devotion. His role was fulfilled through repetition, not reverence. Each sunrise delivered exactly what it promised. Each sunset withdrew without resentment. In this way, the sun taught a lesson rarely spoken aloud. Consistency does not require recognition to remain valuable. Even gods, in these stories, were bound by rhythm. Helios did not choose when to rise or fall. He moved because movement itself was his purpose. His chariot followed a path carved by necessity, not desire. And when grief once threatened to halt his journey, the world reminded him that light belongs not to the bearer, but to everything that depends upon it. This truth extended beyond myth. Civilizations learned, slowly, that systems endure only when they outlast individual will. The sun's path became a symbol of continuity, something larger than ambition, larger than fear. It crossed battlefields and gardens alike, indifferent to human distinctions, offering the same warmth to all. From this, a quiet reassurance emerged. No matter how turbulent events became below, the sky held its order. Day followed night. Seasons turned. The sun rose again. For countless generations, this reliability anchored human life, even when everything else felt unstable. As darkness settles now, that same reassurance is present. Your body recognizes it without needing explanation. The slowing of the evening mirrors an ancient pattern. Muscles loosen not because you command them to, but because night allows it. Breathing deepens. Thoughts lose urgency. The mind begins to release its grip on the day. This is not surrender. It is alignment. Just as Helios releases the sky to night without resistance, you can release wakefulness without struggle. Sleep is not something to achieve. It arrives when conditions are right, when effort steps aside and rhythm takes over. Somewhere beyond sight, the sun continues its unseen journey. It has not vanished. It has simply moved to the far side of the world, carrying light to places now waking. This exchange has always existed. Rest here makes way for activity elsewhere. Balance holds, and in that balance, nothing is lost. Your thoughts may still drift, touching fragments of memory or anticipation, but they do not need resolution. Like stars behind passing clouds, they can remain without demand. The night holds them safely until morning. The same cycle that once guided myths, harvests, and journeys now guides your body towards sleep. Darkness does not erase the day. It completes it. And as rest deepens, the world continues turning steady, patient, unchanged, waiting for the moment when light will return once more. As the night settles fully, silence grows thicker, softer. It is the kind of quiet that does not demand attention, only acceptance. The world has done what it needs to do for now. Roads empty, windows dim, movements slow until they blur into stillness. Even thoughts begin to lose their edges, no longer sharp enough to hold on to. This is the space where rest belongs. Long before sleep was studied or explained, it was trusted. People learned to yield to it the same way they yielded to the setting sun. There was no struggle, no negotiation. When darkness arrived, the body followed. When morning returned, life resumed. The rhythm required no instruction. It was carried in muscle, breath, and instinct. That rhythm has never left. Even now, beneath layers of habit and noise, the body remembers how to listen to the night. It responds to the lowering of light, the cooling of air, the subtle cues that signal it is safe to stop. Sleep does not need to be summoned. It recognizes when it is welcome. Helios, in the oldest stories, never lingered at the horizon. He did not hover, reluctant to leave. He did not cling to the sky out of fear that light might not return. His departure was as assured as his arrival. That certainty allowed night to exist fully, without interruption, without apology. In that surrender, the world was allowed to heal. Plants folded inward. Animals found shelter. Waters cooled. The land itself exhaled, releasing the heat of the day. Darkness became a blanket drawn carefully over everything that lived, protecting it until morning. Human rest was once part of that same gesture. Sleep was not framed as an escape from life, but as a continuation of it. Dreams were not distractions, but messages. Stillness was not emptiness, but preparation. Each night served as a reset, quietly restoring what daylight consumed. Over time, that understanding thinned. Sleep became something to manage, to optimize, to shorten. Night turned into leftover hours rather than sacred pause. But the body resisted this change, reminding its owner again and again that rest is not optional. Without it, the rhythm breaks. Without it, balance falters. Helios never needed to teach this lesson directly. His consistency was enough. The sun's dependable return taught trust. The certainty of dawn made surrendering to night possible. One exists because the other is guaranteed. That promise remains intact. Even as you lie here now, the next sunrise is already on its way, moving steadily beneath the horizon. You do not need to watch for it. You do not need to prepare for it. It will arrive because it always does. Knowing this allows the mind to loosen its vigilance. Nothing must be monitored. Nothing must be held together through effort. The world is capable of continuing without your attention for a while. Systems remain intact. Paths remain true. Light will return on schedule, and so rest becomes an act of trust. Trust in rhythm, trust in continuity, trust that letting go does not lead to loss. As sleep approaches, it may not announce itself dramatically. It does not always arrive as a sudden shift. Often, it slips in quietly, unnoticed, like darkness deepening between moments. One thought fades, then another. The body grows heavier, but not burdened, supported. Breathing settles into a slow, even pattern, guided by instinct rather than intention. The mind drifts, not toward meaning, but away from urgency. There is no longer a need to define anything. This is not the absence of awareness. It is awareness without effort. Just as Helios moves without hesitation along his path, sleep moves toward you naturally when the way is clear. No persuasion is required, only space. And in that space, the final ties to the waking world loosen. The day, with all its details, its demands, its unfinished edges, steps aside. It will be there when you return. For now, it releases you. Night holds you gently. Somewhere far beyond sight, the sun continues its endless journey, carrying light toward another horizon. Its motion ensures that rest here is meaningful, not endless. That pause is temporary. That renewal is coming. But none of that needs your concern. For this moment, the only thing required is rest. The world is turning. The rhythm is intact. You are safe to sleep.